Welcome to the Sharpe Way Show. Yes, it is 7 p.m. on the East Coast, which means you have to look at my handsome face. As always, yes, I'm so happy that you have joined me today. If you want to support what I'm doing, then the number one thing you must do is like, comment, share. There is no way that people are going to see what we're doing here every night at 7 p.m. if you don't do your part and like, comment, and share. That means click that like button, click that love, that hug button, that hate button. If you can't stand me, I'm okay with that too. Click whatever you can, comment, and get those algorithms going. It really does matter. I am very lucky today. I have an amazing guest, a former sheriff, a candidate, now someone who runs a nonprofit, cares about this country, cares about the origin of this country, proudly calls himself a constitutionalist. The man himself, Sheriff Richard Mack. How are you, sir?
Hey, Larry, I'm doing great, and I am so grateful to be on your program. Thanks for having me.
Of course, absolutely. For more information on the good sheriff, please head on over to CSPOA.org to see what he is doing. You are an odd duck, and I mean this in the most positive way that I could possibly mean this. You are 100% pro law enforcement, pro cop, but you're anti-bad cop, which we rarely see. Usually it's one or the other. It's all cops are terrible or all cops are perfect. We all know that. My father was in law enforcement. He was a transit cop in New York City and then a corrections officer. We know they're just humans, right? They're not perfect beings. They're just humans. But it seems as though we hate them all or worship them all. Tell me about that. You're the middle ground that I just don't see.
Yeah, I don't fit the mold in a lot of ways, So I guess that's what you meant by odd duck, and
Yes.
I think that's a great term for it. I don't follow the mold. You can't stereotype me.
Mm-hmm.
I poke fun at police. I poke fun at myself, but I really shake my finger at cops on a lot of issues. I believe that most cops are good people.
Yep.
I would tell you the movie Serpico.
Yes.
I don't know if it was extensive, that corruption within police departments was that extensive, but Denver Police Department back in the 60s had a huge amount of cops that were dirty.
Mm-hmm.
But I really believe that 80% of the cops are really good people, that they wouldn't be caught dead taking money or bribes or taking evidence and then manipulating the evidence or fabricating evidence or taking drug money from a drug deal and then never arresting the person, whatever. But I also think it's more than what a lot of people say. Your analogy that all cops are perfect, there's some people in law enforcement that still say that. One is a very good friend of mine, Sheriff Clark.
Sure.
He really, I don't believe, addresses the issue realistically when cops are caught doing bad things. I don't know if this is possible, but I'm a romantic and an idealist, probably an idealist in a lot of ways, but I temper that with reality. And I'm a big fan of Don Quixote.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of The Impossible Dream, Men of La Mancha.
Yeah, but because you use a term which I love so much and I wish we used more often, you use the term peace officer. Yeah, you use that term often.
I think we need to unbrainwash the police because we should be true peace officers. We should be conservators of the peace instead of just I'm going to enforce the law, and whatever I have to do, I'm going to enforce the law, and I have to enforce all laws. Well, the cops that say that are either ignorant or completely brainwashed because none of us
Mm.
in law enforcement enforce all laws. And some laws are extremely stupid. And thank God we have officers who don't enforce all laws
Right.
because some of them are just ridiculously stupid. In fact, in Arizona and other states, until just maybe 10 years ago, it was against the law to cohabitate in Arizona.
Mm. Right.
And I could have fired or prosecuted half the deputies on my department. And we probably could have done that nationwide. It would have been close to 40-50%. So if it doesn't matter if you're actually prosecuted, if you're breaking the law, I can confront you as your supervisor and say, you can't cohabitate anymore. I'm going to
Right.
fire you.
I'm going to fire you. Sure.
You
Absolutely.
know?
I
So,
get it.
and if you had been arrested for that, you would have had to technically registered as a sex offender. So,
Wow.
yeah, that's how stupid this was. Uh,
Wow.
and so, I'm really about. Okay, I told you I'm kind of mad at police in some ways. Okay,
Yep.
one of them, okay, that we do roadblocks
Yep.
and that we act like Nazis at roadblocks. And there's not anybody in this country who can justify setting up roadblocks and forcing everybody off the road, go in, and if you don't show your papers, comrade, if you don't show your papers, your license, your registration, and your proof of insurance, you're going to get cited or arrested for that.
Yep.
And we're pulling everybody over without Fourth Amendment obedience.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
other words, we're violating the law to supposedly get drunk drivers off the streets. And
I'm with you. I love that.
well, we do that wrong and we need to be called on it. Another one, and anybody who tries to justify this in law enforcement, you need to get another job because you are
Mm.
wrong. In fact, this is actually criminal. Okay, it's called a conflict of interest. And in some cases, a conflict of interest is criminal. And
Mm-hmm.
it's called asset forfeiture.
Oh, yes. Civil asset forfeiture. Absolutely.
And
Yes.
we do that so backwards, it's not even funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, it's okay for us to be in law enforcement and set an example as to how we obey the law ourselves. We
So,
can't ask our citizens to obey the law if we don't obey the supreme law of the land, and that's the Constitution. The Fourth
you
Amendment requires probable cause before we stop people. And then you know what they're going to say? Larry, do you know what they're going to say?
tell me.
The Supreme Court said we could. Well,
Yes.
if
Absolutely.
my mom used to say that. If the Supreme Court tells you to jump off a cliff, are you going to do that too? Ridiculous.
Well,
The
you said
Supreme Court
something.
doesn't run your office. You run your office, and you promise to run it according to the Constitution.
Well, you said something which is odd, but I mean, on the money. You literally said the federal government doesn't control you.
No.
But we feel like it does. Well, the Supreme Court said, the federal government said, so I must do. Bill Clinton told me to put cops in, so I must do it, right?
Okay.
Nixon said war on drugs, so I got to do it, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Now we're back to following Nixon, probably the worst president we ever had, even worse than Clinton and Obama. But no, I'm telling you, when we take an oath, and see, this all boils down to this. This is where I really shake my finger at the police in this country. Okay, sheriffs, chiefs of police, patrol officers. I loved what Officer Greg Anderson put out on YouTube about how we should be following the Constitution, following our oath of office, and doing what's right, especially when it comes to protecting liberty and not abusing the citizens we work for. And that's one peace officer that I really admire. And the others, there's others, but when it comes to adherence to the oath of office, I'm afraid it's about 95% of law enforcement, of our peace officers in this country, who don't even know what we're talking about. And it's a shame because
I think you're right. I think they don't.
It's the only thing that matters.
I've gone one step further, and I've brought this up. none of our executives have figured this out. And I think the American people, since 9/11, have just stopped even thinking about this, because once Bush said, "I'm here to keep you safe. That's my number one job." Right. Once that happened, now almost every executive says that, whether you're a mayor, a governor. That's why they locked us up for the COVID, to keep us safe, right? Everything's keep us safe. But I remember, to your point, which I love, I said it before, and that's why it resonated with me so much. The oath I took as a Marine was to protect and defend the Constitution. Right. Not every individual citizen. That's not what I'm here to do. And the president takes the same oath. The president's job, in theory, clearly not in practice, but in theory, is defend and protect the Constitution. The Constitution protects our rights, and we protect ourselves. That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah,
but it's not.
Is. And what really got me when I was in law enforcement, and believe me, I didn't start my law enforcement career as a constitutional conservative or a constitutionalist or a constitutional cop. I didn't know what the oath of office meant when I took it. In fact, when I started investigating my own oath of office, I didn't even remember signing one. And when I went to the city clerk's office, I asked her about my oath, and she goes, "Yeah, you took an oath." And I said, "Okay, can I see it?" She goes, "Well, you signed it." And I said, "I did." And so she gave me a copy of it. And then sure enough, March, I don't remember the date, but it was March of 1979 when I first got on the police department. And I read it over and I said, "Man, what a liar and a hypocrite I am. I signed an oath just to take a job, just to get a paycheck." And so at that point, I decided that I was going to study the Constitution, because, fellow peace officers of the United States, it is impossible to keep an oath to something that you have never read and that you don't understand. And this is the point. To whom do we owe the oath of office? Well, first, you swear in God's name, so you owe it to him to keep your word. Secondly, you owe it to the people that you work for, who pay your salary. And all three of us, all three branches of government, are required by the supreme law of the land to swear that oath of allegiance to the Constitution. And I feel like that guy in the mine in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Do you want to know why? Okay. The reason why the founders put the oath in the office for all of us in all three branches of government is so that all three branches of government would be working for the same thing: the liberty of every individual in this country.
Yes.
It is our job. It is our duty to protect liberty, and liberty is first. Not traffic tickets, not DUI arrests, not getting rid of the drug problem, not keeping us all safe from the coronavirus. It is liberty. And if we really had leadership in this country today, what the coronavirus protection would look like and policies would look like is a governor would say, "We really have a serious problem here, and we need everybody's cooperation in wearing a mask or shutting down." I believe both of them are stupid, but that's still how it would look. You don't force the American people.
Absolutely.
You don't destroy our businesses and our economy or our freedom to choose for ourselves.
Yes. You said something which I love. You also said, "I hate drug abuse, but I hate the war on drugs more."
How'd you know I said that?
Because I know. I pay attention to my guests.
You're absolutely correct. And again, if we're really discussing principles of liberty, would I be allowed to be in my home and smoke pot without fearing that my neighbors are going to come charging in there, arrest me, take away my kids, and sell my home and confiscate everything I have in the bank account? If my neighbors do not have the authority to do that, then they cannot delegate that to our police or our government.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
My point there is, government can only do that which we delegate to them and we authorize. And so, yes, I hate drug abuse, but the drug war has been, well, let's see. What has it done for us? Have we stopped drugs? Have
Nope.
we prevented any drug abuse in this country?
Nope.
Not one iota. And so the only thing that has happened since I was first a rookie cop in 1979, the only thing that has happened with the drug problem is that drugs have become more profitable,
Yep.
more potent, and
Yep.
more prevalent. It's the three P's.
Absolutely true. Yes.
No,
It hasn't
we
worked.
spend $100 billion a year to stop a problem that we created with our laws of prohibition, and why we can't learn from history and know that prohibition does not work unless you're trying to create a black market that creates multi-billionaires out of El Chapo and people like the Chicago gangster, the chubby
Al Capone.
Al Capone. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yes.
and see, Al Capone made millions off of prohibition back in those days. And look, you guys, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I know what the answer is not, and that is we are not going to arrest away the drug problem. You can't even keep drugs out of prisons.
You can't keep them out of prison. I know. I get it. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's a big Shelley had a lot to say there. I apologize for that. Yes. So
yeah, keep your questions shorter.
I completely agree with what you're saying. I love the idea that it winds up hurting people far more than it winds up helping.
Right.
Tell me though about the CSPOA. Why did you create? I mean, you're about the oath. You're about the Constitution. I heard that loud and clear. You want more peace officers to be that way. Tell me what CSPOA does.
Well, it's trying to make constitutional sheriffs and constitutional peace officers. And the bottom line is that we will uphold and defend the Constitution. We will keep our oath. We will defend liberty at all costs. And we will be examples to the rest of the country as to how we comply with the Constitution. That when we raise our right arm in the air and swear an oath of allegiance to the Constitution, then that presupposes that we will know it, understand it, and obey it, cherish it, and be a part of preserving it. I can't believe that there's still peace officers in this country and county attorneys and district attorneys who will actually tell cops that no, they don't really have to keep their oath of office. I can't believe that happens in America. Where is it okay that you have to swear an oath and then you don't have to keep it?
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you another one. I got to shake my finger at some more cops and sheriffs on this one. That you would actually say in public to your officers and to your constituents that you're going to do whatever you want to the people until the courts tell you can't do it. That's probably the most damnable expression I've ever seen. It's lazy, it's wrong, it's immoral. So you're just going to do whatever you want to the people, and the Constitution notwithstanding, liberty notwithstanding. Let me tell you right now, maybe someday somebody will end up doing that to you or your family because the courts haven't told us not to.
Absolutely.
I did not swear an oath to uphold and defend the courts of this country and the police. We as peace officers, which branch do we work for? Well, let's see. Do we legislate? Do we make laws? No. Do we judge the laws? Do we judge people on trial? No. Then we are part of the executive branch. We are the executors of the law and the supreme law of the land. Is there a drum roll? Do we have any drum rolls?
Ching.
The supreme law of the land is the United States Constitution.
Yes.
And so that is what I'm supposed to know and love and understand and enforce.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So look, I want to bring up one more piece, which you mentioned this because your ethics and morals. This is a big deal for you, yeah. But for most people in law enforcement, they equate law with ethical, law with morality.
Yeah.
You don't.
No.
And again, that's not common, right? Most people in law enforcement say, to your point, it's in the law, therefore it's okay, right? I live in New York City, and in New York City, they will literally arrest you if you bring your legally owned firearm through JFK, through our airport. If you bring it through our airport, and I'm not joking, following all of the TSA guidelines, every one of them, they will arrest you and put you in to Rikers Island, which is the most violent jail in the country. And their answer is, it's the law, therefore it's okay. And by default, it is moral or ethical because it is the law. I see that constantly, but not you. You don't play that game.
Well, there's a book about that. It's called The Law, and it was written by Frederick Bastiat.
One of my favorite books.
And it says the same thing. You're quoting him.
Mm-hmm.
The law, just because it exists, does not make it moral or correct.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, Jefferson said something similar. He said, "But what are laws? Tools of the tyrant." And so, you guys, if tyrants, if tyranny, if despots and monarchs and evil people and fascists and dictators know that you will buy in to any and any enforcement and all enforcement of any law, then they got us.
Yep.
And Thomas Paine wrote in The American Crisis, England with an army to enforce her tyranny. You see, folks, it's not okay for us to be part of the army following blindly when we promise to follow the Constitution, and instead we follow blindly a governor or mayor who are clearly outside the law.
Absolutely.
And clearly outside the Constitution, and we will arrest. Oh,
I got you going. All right. Let me get you off of this for a second.
Let me finish that one.
Okay, go ahead. Good.
That we would arrest a minister or pastor for having church in this country.
I know.
You would think there would be one principle of liberty that we would
it's the First Amendment. You think we'd at least support that one? You think we would?
Yeah, and couldn't all three branches agree that that's the one that we would never violate?
Yes.
Oh no, it's okay as long as the governor gave an order. Some of them aren't even laws; they're just capricious orders.
Yep.
From an idiot governor or a self-appointed Hitler, and we go along with them. Oh my God! No.
So you also, I'm going back to the moral, ethical issue that you often bring up. And you're very proud that you were a peace officer, over 20 years, correct?
Yes.
And you never shot anybody, you never beat anybody up, you never fired your gun in anger, never. And you're proud of that. And many cops think the opposite.
Yeah, I do a constitutional training class, and a couple of sheriffs asked me once, "Well, you do this class on the Constitution. Have you ever shot anybody?" And I said no, and they go, "What qualifies you to train me in law enforcement?" And
yes,
I said, "Do you want the only person that you'll ever listen to is somebody who shot at somebody else?" I said, "Don't you want to talk to somebody and be trained by somebody? First, I'm training you in the Constitution, not self-defense."
Yes.
Okay? I'm also not training in lethal force usage by cops. I don't train in that either. However, wouldn't you really want somebody who has spent 20 years, was always in the top of arrests, but never once was accused of excessive force or police brutality?
Now that's the part I love, is that you actually were still in a top ranking of arrests.
Yeah. Always.
It wasn't like you were sitting in your car eating donuts. You were doing your job. You just weren't beating people up.
They'll fire you. But
here we go. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
No, I prided myself in talking people into jail, not beating them into jail. And there's a huge difference. And again, even these that I'm talking about they're very few. They're part of the 20%, because the real good officers and sheriffs really understand this, but I believe they haven't been trained correctly yet. We don't train anything in police academies about the oath of office or the Constitution.
Agreed.
They only train in case law. that
Yep.
applies to cops, like the Miranda decision or the Galt decision or Terry versus Ohio or uh, my favorite, Gideon versus Wainwright. Oh, that was a great case.
I don't know Gideon versus Wainwright. Please tell me what that one is.
Well, he went to prison and because he couldn't afford a lawyer, and they gave him life sentence. And he said, "Where's my lawyer?" And the court said, "You don't get one unless it's a capital offense." He goes, "What?" So when he was in Gideon was in
Wow.
prison, he wrote a hand note to the United States Supreme Court in a pencil, and he wrote that note, and they got it, and they said, "Oh my gosh!" So they assigned him a new lawyer, a big high-powered
Wow.
lawyer out of D.C. They went back to court, and he was found not guilty by a jury in like 45 minutes. And they were going to give him life imprisonment. And this just goes to show you, one person writing one letter to the U.S. Supreme Court can have a huge impact, and it changed American jurisprudence.
I'm so happy I heard that story. I didn't know what that was. That
Amazing case.
amazing. I love that. So I mean, I love the fact that you talk about the idea of something else. And I noticed this when I about 25 years ago or so, I worked for Bill Bratton, who was the police commissioner of New York City and also of LA for a while, also Boston, many years ago. And he did a small stint in the civilian world. It wasn't where it should be. He was much better as a cop. But while he was civilian, I used to sell. I was a sales rep, and he was my boss for a short period of time. And I remember at the end of the meetings, he literally would say, "Go out and do good things."
Oh, I love that.
Yes, most police officers say, "Be safe. Make sure you come home." They act like they're in a war zone.
Yeah, but wait, do you remember Hill Street Blues?
Yes.
What did they say every time after their briefing? Let's go do it to them before they do it to us.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
That was another brainwashing, and yeah.
Absolutely. The idea that they're sending the cops out thinking that they're fighting a war.
Yeah.
But the thing that bothers me, and I remember this, and because I'm a Marine, I'm not a combat vet, but I'm too old now for that. But the youngsters who now have gone through combat, I spend some time helping them transition. So I do a lot of work to help them transition into the business world. And it bothers me so much that we have a culture of the cops saying us before them, us before them.
I know.
But my Marines go out and fight, and if they die, then they die. It's not us before them. Literally, the Marines have more stringent, rules of engagement than our police force does inside our own territory. There's more restrictions on Marines with enemies who fight back, who literally try to kill us. They have more restrictions than some of our police forces here, and it bothers me.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the backdrop of what we've been talking about since we started the show half hour ago, I guess. I really believe that, and the platitude that you said about let's go out and do something right instead of these brainwashing tactics that have happened to police over the years, and we have been brainwashed, and we've discussed several of them the last 25 minutes. It's amazing how we catch on to this, but I'll tell you another brainwashing. Why do most cops want to be in police work?
Why? I think most cops, I think there's two reasons. I really believe this. One is generic government work, and one is the cop. Generic government work, most people want a good job, right? That's generic government work to include police force, right? There are a group of people who just go, oh, it's a good government job. That's option one. But I think the other option is, I think many of them want to be crusaders. They want to be Superman. They want to fix things. They want to go do the right thing. That's what I believe.
But even now, let me ask you that. Why do they want to do that?
Because they saw it on TV or a movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Because they saw it on movies and they saw it on TV and they want to be like that. And
absolutely.
And you know what the movies really glamorize? That's probably the most boring thing I've ever done in my life.
What?
Stakeouts.
Oh, yes.
Handouts are so boring, and you usually come up with nothing, So you're
Yeah.
there 4 or 5 nights in a row, sitting in your car. You can't get out of your car. You have to find new ways to go to the bathroom, and it's. I'm telling you, you have to snack on stuff that's probably not good for you and get you fat.
Yeah.
And I swore off donuts a long time ago, by the
Well,
way.
you've done a lot. I mean, you've done undercover work,
Yeah,
you've done SWAT team training, you've
yeah.
done hostage negotiation work. So you've done a lot of these tough things. But again, throughout the entire thing, you still call it peace officer. I really wish a lot of people were thinking more like that. I love that
I'll
concept.
change it to this: guard of the Republic or guard of the Constitution, the protector of liberty. That's what we should be called. You want something? You want some motto on your police cruiser? Good. Put defender of the Constitution,
Ah, okay.
because that's what you
Okay.
promised. That's what you promised when you took your job. And don't start getting mad at me, Mr. Cop and Miss Cop. Uh, I'm telling you the truth. You did take an oath. Tell me how you keep it. And let me ask, I got a
Mm,
$10,000 question for every cop in this country. This is in my books, and I highly recommend everybody get my books. I've written 8 books, and they're all on our website. But in the book, The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, and then The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. Those are two, they're very short, but they're
okay.
powerful as heck. Let me ask you this question. If you were called back into time to Montgomery, Alabama, December 1st, 1955, would you have got on the bus and arrested Rosa Parks for failing to give her seat to a white man? Oh, what would you have done then? Answer the question. Would you have arrested her? Oh, I thought you enforce all laws. I thought
Right.
all laws are moral. You know what? That was a law that was so stupid and ignorant that 2 cops got on the bus and actually arrested her for not giving her seat to a white man. That
Yeah.
is, yeah. So I've asked a lot of cops that question. The answers are so comical. Most of them, well, I have to enforce the law, but oh gosh, no, and ask a black officer that one too. Would you have
Hmm.
arrested Rosa Parks? And you see, this is the thing that we teach at the CSPOA. We teach, in fact, I do a big, almost a half-hour presentation on Rosa Parks. And if I can, I call a black lady up out of the audience to play Rosa Parks for me.
Oh
And
my God, that's got to be
I've had,
powerful.
I've had spiritual experiences doing this. I kid you not. Because then I say this, okay, what should the cop have done? What should the sheriff have
Mm.
done? What would a true peace officer have done that day? Let me tell you, he would have sat down next to her. He would have asked her if everything's okay. She would have said something like, why can't we just be left alone? And
Hmm.
so this good constitutional sheriff, he has his deputy with him. And I don't think the sheriff got on board the bus really knowing what he was going to do at first.
Hmm. You
But
probably didn't.
when he looked into her eyes and saw how beautiful she was and saw how dedicated she was to principles of liberty, then he reaches over and he shakes her hand and he says, Mrs. Parks, what you're doing here today took a lot of courage, and it would be an honor for my deputy and me to escort you home safely. And what do they do with the law? They put it in the trash where it belonged. And what should we do with stupid laws today? The same damn thing. Put them in the
Mm.
trash and protect the rights of the individual. And then they
I
escort her
I
home
love it.
safely. Then they escort her home safely. And then they make sure that she has a gun in the home where she and her husband can protect themselves from any masked marauders wanting to burn crosses in their yard or anything else. And the good sheriff makes sure that they have extra patrol by their home for the next several weeks. But obviously,
You
we can't be there 24/7. So he makes sure that they
you
have a
just
way
went
to
to the
defend
next
themselves.
place, which I haven't even brought up yet, which is you're a law enforcement officer who's pro 2A. You're against gun laws. I mean, you want people to have their Second Amendment rights. You become an otter duck by the moment.
I can't help that. It's in the Constitution. I promise to uphold and defend the Constitution. I don't get to pick and choose which part of the Constitution I support and defend. I'm sorry. I took an oath. So actually, that was the first one that I researched when I was becoming a true keeper of my oath. Mm-hmm. And so I looked up. My chief actually said he didn't think anybody should have guns except the military and cops.
It's a very common thought process.
I said, So I looked it up. You know what? The founder said just the opposite. And there was a reason. If you find out the intent as to why the founders promulgated the Second Amendment, you'll know that if I ever need to defend my liberty against government ever again, that I will have the capability of doing so.
Got it.
And it's to protect myself from government, and it's also to protect myself from anybody, street criminals, whoever, who might want to do me or my family harm. And that principle has not changed since day one the Second Amendment was promulgated.
So let's go to the thing I really want to hear about, and I think some people don't know about. You sued the Clintons.
Aha. Yes.
Tell me about that.
My favorite line is, I'm the only person in history to sue Bill Clinton on a non-sexual matter.
Do you feel like he doesn't love you?
No. Well, I've never talked to him, but believe me, he should be investigated for the people who he has loved.
So tell me about the lawsuit.
Well, it's the most amazing case in American history regarding the 10th Amendment. It's the most powerful 10th Amendment decision ever. Yes, folks, I am the only sheriff in American history to start a major lawsuit against the federal government, take it all the way to the Supreme Court, and win.
Tell me what happened.
Yes, other sheriffs joined the lawsuit, but Sheriff Prince from Montana and I ended up at the Supreme Court together.
Okay.
And on June 27, 1997, the Supreme Court ruled that the Brady Bill actually violated the 10th Amendment. The Brady Bill was also the first time in American history that Congress passed a law signed by the President Clinton that literally forced the sheriffs of this country to manage it, to enforce it, and to spend all our money and time enforcing it. Imagine the President of the United States and the Congress saying, well, let's see, who should we have enforce this federal law that we just passed?
Local sheriffs that don't work for us.
Do it. Yes. Yeah, let's make Mikey do it. Mm-hmm. And believe me, that is so outside their lane of traffic that every sheriff should be objecting to that. But
this goes back to what you said earlier, which is the sheriffs don't work for the federal government.
Correct. And to be quite honest, the President of the United States cannot tell your sheriff what to do. As a matter of fact, when federal agents come into your sheriff's county, he should be telling them what to do. He should be watching them. Okay, let me ask you another $10,000 question. Who's watching the IRS? Who's making sure the IRS doesn't commit crimes? They commit crimes for the last 70, 80 years. They've been used by how many different presidents to go after the president's political enemies? Mm-hmm. Nixon did it. Obama did it. Clinton did it. Bush did it. FDR did it. And there's probably more that did it. And why do we continue to put up with that? And why do we allow them unfettered access to our citizens in our counties when their crimes go sky high all the time? And that they can kick people out of their homes with impunity and
take all their assets.
Okay, yeah, exactly. And so I'm saying this. I'm saying no more to an IRS that makes a living off of random audits, baseless, anti-Fourth Amendment audits. That's the first thing, if I was ever sheriff again, that I would tell the IRS, you're not doing that to any of my constituents in my county. They said, how are you going to stop us? And I said, well, you file that, they'll bring it to me, and I'll send it back to you. And
Tell
then I'll
the
tell you, if
Joe
you come in
Lewis
my
story.
county, yeah, I'm telling you, when
No, I'm
government
saying,
breaks the law, we have to stop it.
tell the Joe Lewis story.
Oh my gosh. Boy, you really did some research on me, man.
I pay attention.
Man. Well, Joe Lewis was probably one of the greatest gentlemen to ever be the heavyweight champion of the world. What a patriotic gentleman, that one of the best citizens we've ever had in America. He's a hero. Well, anyway, during World War II, he joined the army, and he still fought to defend his crown, and he did 2 of them, and he donated the entire prize, his entire check, to the army, and then 1 to the Navy, and he just signed the check over to the government. Well, the IRS said, too bad, you shouldn't have kept it in your name. And so they went after him on that. I can't even fathom that government could be so cruel and evil to do something like that. He's so magnanimous and so generous and so patriotic. He signs over the entire check to the federal government, which the IRS knew he did, which makes it tax deductible. And they charged him the taxes on both. And they kept after him, and they completely ruined Joe Lewis. They took the trust funds of his children that he had set up for their college. He got $600 in inheritance from his mother when she passed away. They took that. Finally, he took a job as a greeter at a casino in Las Vegas just to make ends meet.
And this is the heavyweight world champion.
Heavyweight champion of the world. And then finally, and I don't remember this guy's name, the German he first beat for the title.
Max Schmeling.
Schmeling actually paid for Joe Lewis's funeral.
Wow.
Wow. There was no money in his estate.
Wow.
And this is the type of IRS that we have continued to allow to do business. When I teach high school, and when I told this story and showed it, I showed the documentation of it. One little girl, I had 125 students. I have 6 different classes. One girl said, Sheriff Mack, and I make them call me Sheriff. Why didn't anybody do anything about this? And I said, why doesn't somebody do something about it today? What has Clinton done about this? What has your favorite president, mostly in America, and he's always in the internet. If you look at the best presidents, Lincoln usually ends up being first, but Obama is usually in the top 8. Why didn't Obama stop this? He made it worse.
Absolutely.
He made it worse. He did this. He did the same thing.
Let me play a video from your website that kind of covers what you just said about, what are we doing and who's going to do it and how's it going to be done.
Oh, and by the way, the CSPOA is against all injustice. And,
yes,
and especially that from the IRS. So all injustice, all lives matter to us.
What I see today, when there's another YouTube video about a police officer tasing a 72-year-old woman, and he's twice her size, that makes me convinced that somebody is in the wrong line of work.
Now, I want to touch that piece what you just said. You're literally saying that some people shouldn't be cops.
Yeah, I am.
That's what I've been saying, that it's a system that is attracting the wrong people.
Yeah.
They should, right? Some people shouldn't be cops. Just they shouldn't be.
Well, right. These Clint Eastwood and John Wayne egotistical cops, yeah, they're the ones. And again, it's not most cops. And most cops, in fact, 99.9% of all cops do not hope they can kill somebody.
Yes.
Okay? They don't get up in the morning and say, oh, I hope I can shoot some black kid today. No, they don't. Okay. Are there some stupid cops that put their knees in the throat of a man? Yes, an extremely rare occasion. But no matter how cops are hurting another individual or even shooting another individual, I don't care what color they are. I say go after the cop and prosecute him and to the full extent of the law. Now, look, when it comes to George Floyd, people were demanding justice. Well, let me tell every one of you, I ran my own jail for 8 years. I was in law enforcement for over 20 years. I trained law enforcement all across this country in this. Let me tell you that every wheel that should be turning in the George Floyd case to obtain justice is turning just as fast as it should be.
But hold on, I want to finish this because you bring up a little bit of that in the video. Let me finish the video, and then we'll keep going.
All right,
Let me finish it.
And that we have forgotten what we are here for. We have forgotten that we're here to serve and protect. If you put those two together, the constitutional oath with our duty as peace officers, then you won't see these stupid videos on YouTube anymore. How ridiculous can we be? I, for one, I won't watch anymore. I'm not going to watch my country die and sit back and say, why doesn't somebody do something? Why doesn't somebody stop that? Oh, I know. Let's make a new law. There ought to be a law against that. There already is.
This is what you just said. That's why I wanted to show the video. You literally just said this. You just said before, you said, who's going to do something? Why don't we? And then you said, you know what? There are already laws against this. The justice is already happening, but it's a systemic issue we have to repair. It isn't the laws. We don't need a new law. We've already got the laws. It's already illegal to murder George Floyd. That's already against the law. I totally get what you're saying. I didn't mean to be a nudge there. I just wanted to make sure that since you already said it, I kind of wanted to cover that. Let me wrap this up real fast.
Okay.
Every abuse that you see going on today is a violation of the supreme law of the land. And we are here today with honorable men and women who know and understand our duty to do, to act, to make a difference, to change.
So the reason why I want to say is because it's exactly what you just talked about. That, by the way, for everyone who knows, is actually on his website. It's the video from his website.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I want to focus a little bit about another question you asked earlier. The CSPOA is something that every single person on this program today or that hears about this, you can become a member of the CSPOA. We need you. We want you. If we get the more citizens we get on here, we teach you how to contact your local law enforcement and your sheriff and get them trained in the CSPOA Constitution for Law Enforcement training that we do. We train people to be peace officers. We train people to keep their oath. We train people to be an example to the community, and we train people to be a part of their community. I think it was Teddy Roosevelt that said, no. It was a New York commissioner of law enforcement said, the problem with law enforcement in America is that our streets are patrolled by strangers. Well, let's be strangers no more. Let's get out and meet the people, be foot soldiers on the ground, going and talking and meeting with people. I love doing that, and I had some great experiences doing that. People asking me to come and sit on the porch and have a lemonade with them, and a buddy, a cop mine, he did this, and he was actually he was on patrol on Thanksgiving Day, and some people came out and asked him to come in for Thanksgiving dinner, and he did.
Wow.
See, that's the type of thing that we promote at the CSPOA. Yeah, we believe in law and order. We sure do.
Absolutely.
We believe that we have a responsibility to keep our word, to keep integrity, and to make sure people know and understand we will follow and enforce the Constitution. We hope that all of you are part of that. Join us in this holy cause.
I love that. So I want to go down 4 specific questions. Some you kind of already dealt with, but I want to make sure we cover all of them because people are asking these questions, so I want to make sure they're answered.
All right.
How do you feel about ending qualified immunity? Actually, the representative Justin Amash, the Libertarian, actually already put a bill forward. It was actually tripartisan. Some Democrats, some Republicans, and him being the Libertarian also supported it, but it didn't go anywhere. Do you have a view on ending qualified immunity?
Yeah, I don't know why we would need such a thing. If we really have public servants as our peace officers, we won't need that qualified immunity. But I say the same goes to judges. The same goes to legislators.
Sure.
It's all of us. And I think that we should make it a criminal offense if anybody can prove I broke my oath of office.
Wow.
Yeah. Why not?
Okay. No, I love it. It's
not, in fact, we should already be charged with perjury. If you take an oath and intentionally violate it, you should be charged with perjury. Maybe more, but you should definitely be charged with perjury.
Wow. Okay. I got it easy. There's an idea that I've come up with, that people have come up with, that I'm behind, which is the idea that cops should hold their own liability insurance, just like doctors and lawyers and anyone else. And that if unions want to be involved, that unions can become insurance brokers if they want to have each individual cop carry their own insurance. The goal of this, obviously, is to ensure that the good cops will have low insurance rates. They'll be fine. The cops who make an error will pay a temporary increase, right? They aren't bad cops, but just screwed up. Will have a temporary increase in their insurance for a certain period of time, then go back to normal. But the bad cops who keep messing up will eventually be unable to be insured, which means they can't get jobs anymore. And to your point, those people can't be law enforcement officers anymore. Do you have a view on that?
I'm not in favor of any forced insurance, not car insurance, not health insurance. Obama forcing everybody to have health insurance and fining us if we didn't. That was tyrannical. That was not charity. That was not magnanimous and kind and generous. All it did for me was raise my rates, and the IRS his buddies at the IRS were enforcing that. Literally.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, I'm not in favor of that. If a cop wants to choose getting that, then the union should help. I'm not a big union guy, but if the cop wants to join a union and he wants to pay dues to help with his liability insurance, more power to him. But it should not be forced.
Okay. Then you've mentioned you don't like the drug war. I get that. We've talked often about the idea of to start dismantling the war on drugs. The first step would be taking cannabis off of Schedule 1. Oh,
for God's sakes. Yeah, I'm totally in favor of legalizing marijuana. In fact, if it comes to this, if it's the drug war to continue as is, or complete universal decriminalization, I'm totally in favor of that.
Okay, great.
For every drug. I don't care which one.
Last piece, which we've already discussed, but the idea of ending civil asset forfeiture. Obviously, you're already against it. You've already talked on that piece.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't believe police do that. I really can't. And again, most of them are good people that are doing that, but they've just been brainwashed with this, that it's okay to do it as long as it's against drug dealers. Well, they use it against a lot of people. I have a friend who got $150,000 confiscated out of his vehicle after he worked a gun show. You know, people pay by cash. They come in to attend a gun show, and he never got a dime of that back.
Yep.
Absolutely. And for cops that do that sort of thing, that's one where they should have charged those cops with violating their oath, and probably a lot more.
I want to go now to a final question, if I could, which is a little bit off topic, but people are even mentioning it in the comments. You know, for the next governor, and you should run for office. You did run for office.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. How did that work?
I ran for Congress just, I don't know, a couple of years ago, out here in Arizona, and it was Trent Franks who abruptly resigned. And I thought, well, gosh, nobody's in line to take his place. Maybe it's a wide open race, but it wasn't. And the Republicans, in a lot of ways, are no different than Democrats when it comes to promoting their incumbents.
Mhm.
And there was no incumbent, but there was the anointed ones. You know, you
Yes.
have to pay your dues, and
The
it's really
next in
strange.
line.
They will not support the best candidates.
Mhm.
In fact, they hate doing that, and they won't support constitutional candidates. And I
No.
ran as a constitutional candidate, and oh boy, they don't care. They do not care. It's theirs to appoint and take care of, and that's why Washington said a two-party system will destroy our country.
And it's in the process of doing exactly that.
Yeah.
Yes. So I guess the last piece I want to ask you is, now that the lawsuit with the Clintons is over, are you satisfied with what's happened afterwards? Not satisfied, kind of satisfied, disappointed?
Yes and no. Yes and no. First of all, nobody pays any attention to it.
Yeah.
Nobody really enforces it. However, if people do read it, it's one of the most powerful cases ever to come out of the United States Supreme Court, and it is the most powerful state sovereignty 10th Amendment cases in the history of America. Let me tell you one quote from it.
Mhm.
The Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. Folks, if it didn't say anything but that, but then it even goes further and says the Constitution protects us from, quote, the crisis of the day.
Yes. Oh my God. It's happening right now, isn't it?
That's it.
It's
That's it.
happening right now. It's always the crisis. What's that saying? Never let
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
There we go. Yes. God, it's you see it constantly again and again and again. So now that you've run for office, would you do it again?
I would love to be a senator or U.S. congressman, but I will never do it again. I'm spending so much time on restoring America. I don't believe there's an answer or solution in Washington, D.C. I do believe Trump has done a very admirable job.
Okay.
And the Democrats have tried to stop him and impede him and assail him and make him into something he's not. I have criticized the president a few times, but for the most part, I believe that he has kept his word and he's tried to do a good job. And I'm very pro-life. I don't believe you can live in a country that's based on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and then say, but you can kill unborn babies. I don't believe that's moral. It's against my core religious beliefs. And I don't understand how we're allowing that to happen in America. But how we do that without forcing some 13-year-old and all that, I'm very compassionate. And I want
I hear your compassion in your voice. I get that completely. I definitely get that completely. My worry, again, just on the same thing, is the right says Trump is the greatest thing ever. The left says he's evil. The right says Biden's completely a socialist, and the left says he's.
I agree with that. I think that's obvious.
But
I think
Biden's an establishment guy.
He is, but
He's an
right
establishment
now the far left is bringing him to socialism.
Oh, the far left is completely social. That's true. Biden's an establishment
guy, and they're influencing him. I think they're influencing him a great deal.
Maybe. But
my point being, we have to wait till we see when he's elected, because we really won't know until he's elected. And I predict that he's going to be elected.
You think Biden's going to win this?
Yes. I pray that he doesn't.
Okay, maybe. I'm not. Look, the polls right now do favor Biden.
Right.
But they favored Hillary in 2016, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not basing it on the
polls right now do favor Biden. That's accurate.
I'm basing it on the complicity of the media, that the Democrats will do anything to win, including murder. And I have no respect for these people whatsoever. They're violent. They're angry. They're rioters. And for these governors and mayors to support this kind of lawlessness really scares me and worries me about where their heads are. But I believe that they will manipulate the ballots, whether they have to or not. They're planning on doing that. and they will do it, and they will make sure that this person, they hate Trump so badly
They
that
do
I
hate
believe
Trump. That's
that
true.
they will do anything, including the media working with this, that they will do anything to make sure that Trump doesn't get reelected. I believe if it was a clean election and an honest election, I think that Trump probably would win again. But
It's funny that you bring this up, right? The idea that and this is a little bit off topic, but we're wrapping it up, so it's fine. My worry here is that either way, whether Trump wins or loses, the other side will believe that they were cheated.
right. Oh yeah.
Whether they were or not. I think
Right.
either side, if Trump wins, the Democrats are going to say he cheated, it was the Russians. If
Right.
Trump loses, right, then everyone's, oh no, he cheated, it was the mail-in votes or whatever. Everyone's going to think that it was that somebody cheated.
Well, even Obama has said, and quote, even the Democrats have monkeyed with elections. Then why didn't he do something about it? And why do we need computerized voting in the first place?
Well,
Computers
To
are
be
hacked.
fair,
Computers are easy to hack.
well, look.
Okay?
Here's the thing.
Why
So
are we doing computerized voting?
both parties, and I'm a libertarian, so I'm voting Joe Jorgensen. That's what I'm voting.
Yeah.
And I would hope she's going to win, but I think that's probably not going to happen. But that's okay. I'm still voting third party. That's what I want. But I'm just telling you what, I don't trust Democrats or Republicans.
I have voted third party before.
Ask your question's a valid one. Why didn't Obama fix it? Why didn't Trump fix it? I'll tell you why neither one of them fixed it. Because they won.
Yeah.
They won. So why fix the system to when I run?
Right.
I won. So it's a good system. It's good enough. Trump even said so. Trump was honest about it. He said it was rigged, but I won. So now I don't care. That's a Trump. Obama the same way. He just didn't say it. But they both the same way. There's no doubt.
Every time there's election fraud, they always come back with an investigation that says, well, there was fraud, but it wasn't enough to change the election, so we're not going to do anything about it.
Absolutely. And whoever wins this election,
there should be all paper ballots, and the ballot should have my name written right on it. And you should count it by hand. And so that delays the election results for a day and a half. I don't care, because that just placates to the media.
But I'm going to go back to what you said. Here's the reality. The states can decide.
Yeah.
The states can decide. This is not a federal issue. Even though it's a federal election, the states can do votes. What Colorado does all mail-in because they want to. I'm okay with them deciding to go the way they want to go. So you have Arizona. You got to tell your Arizona people to do it by hand. You got to go do that to make it fair.
We already tried that once when Governor Brewer was in office, and that was like 15 years ago. We just said, why can't we verify the vote by the computerized vote, the hanging Chad cards, and just hand count 1% of all the votes that come in. Hand count and verify that it's the same percentage. They wouldn't even do that.
Well, there we go.
No.
Well, Sheriff Mack, I want to wrap it up here if I could. I want to say thank you so much for coming aboard. I appreciate it tremendously. It was a great show. A lot of people back and forth give me answers. For those of you who want to check out the good sheriff, please head on over to his website. It's CSPOA.org. Check him out if you want to. Thank you all for watching so much. Sheriff, thank you so much for all the time you gave me. It was amazing. I want to say thank you guys. Good night. I will see you all very soon.